Tell me something. Why is it that women can't stop desiring older men? It's not just about age, money, or a few grey hairs. No, the truth runs much deeper. Women are drawn to something younger men almost always miss, a different kind of confidence, a quiet power, the ability to create desire without chasing it. Older men don't beg for attention. They don't try to impress with loud jokes or desperate moves. Instead, they master a few subtle tricks that flip the game completely. Tricks so powerful, a woman feels them in her body before her mind can even explain it. And once you learn these, you'll understand why women chase older men instead of the other way around. 1. The power of calm touch. Most men have no idea how powerful a single touch can be. They either avoid it completely, afraid of making a mistake, or they go too far, too fast, and destroy the very spark they're trying to create. But the older man knows a secret. Touch is not about quantity. It's about timing. It's about control. It's about the ability to create desire with the smallest movement, not the biggest gesture. Imagine this. You're walking together. The crowd is busy. The noise is everywhere. And then, just as he guides her through the doorway, his hand brushes lightly against her lower back. Not heavy, not obvious, just enough for her body to feel it. Her heart skips. Her skin tingles. She doesn't even have time to process it, yet her nervous system has already responded. That's the magic of the calm touch. Psychologists call it sensory priming. The body reacts to touch faster than the mind can explain it. That feather-light graze tells her subconscious, this man is here. And suddenly, she becomes more aware of him than of anyone else in the room. The younger man either grabs too much, making her recoil, or freezes and never touches at all, leaving the connection lifeless. But the older man, he walks the fine line perfectly. He doesn't force the moment. He lets the moment find him. The fingertips grazing her arm as he leans closer. The almost accidental touch when he hands her something. The brief contact that feels casual, yet lingers just 1 second too long. And here's the deeper truth. Women don't crave constant touch. They crave anticipation. They crave the suspense of what might come next. A boy rushes in and ruins it. A man slows it down and makes her imagination do the work. Picture this. They're laughing together. The mood is playful. In the middle of the laughter, he reaches out and touches her arm, just for a heartbeat. Then he pulls away with a smile. That 1 second touch burns into her memory far deeper than 10 minutes of clumsy grabbing ever could. Because now she's left wondering, did he mean it? Did I imagine that spark? And the more she wonders, the stronger it sinks in. That's the art of the calm touch. It's not about taking, it's about leaving her with something she can't stop replaying in her mind. It's the difference between a boy who wants attention and a man who makes her crave it. 2. The voice that pulls her in. Most men think attraction is about what they say. They obsess over clever lines, jokes, or stories. But women don't just listen to words. They listen to how those words are spoken. And that is where the older man has a massive advantage. A deep, slow, steady voice can do what 100 flashy sentences never will. It doesn't just go into her ears. It vibrates in her body. It makes her lean in closer without even realizing it. It makes her feel calm, safe, and excited at the same time. Younger men often talk too fast. They rush through sentences, afraid of silence. They laugh too loudly, eager to prove themselves. They try to impress by filling the air with noise. But the older man, he knows the truth. Silence is not the enemy. Silence is the secret weapon. He doesn't speak to impress. He speaks to influence. He lets his words breathe. He pauses at the right moments. He slows down just enough so she has to wait. And in the waiting, the attraction grows. Psychologists call this paraverbal dominance. the way tone, rhythm, and pacing communicate more than the actual content. A calm, deep voice signals control, authority, sexual confidence. And here's the thing, the brain may forget the sentences, but the body never forgets how that voice made her feel. Picture this. The room is buzzing with noise, people talking, music playing. She leans in to say something, and instead of answering loudly, he lowers his tone. Slower, deeper, softer. Just enough so that she has to lean in to catch his words. In that instant, it feels like the entire world has disappeared. It's no longer a crowded room. It's just the two of them, locked in a frequency no one else can hear. And the effect. She doesn't just listen to him, she craves his voice. Every pause feels like suspense. Every slow word lands heavier than a whole story told by someone else. His voice becomes addictive, not because of the content, but because of the feeling it creates. Now compare that to the younger man. He's talking too much, too quickly, trying too hard. He doesn't realize that the more noise he makes, the less she feels. The older man, however, understands the opposite. Less sound, delivered with presence, creates more desire. Here's the real secret. A woman doesn't lean in just to hear a man's words. She leans in because, deep down, she wants more of him. That's the difference between a boy performing for attention and a man whose voice alone becomes a form of seduction. And once she's hooked on that voice, she won't just remember the conversation. She'll remember the feeling, the calmness, the tension, the anticipation, and she'll replay it in her mind again and again. That is the power of a controlled, deliberate, magnetic voice. It doesn't just speak to her, it pulls her in. 3 eyes that see through her. They say eyes never lie, but when it comes to attraction, the eyes don't just tell the truth, they create it. A single look can be more powerful than 100 words, and older men understand this better than anyone. Younger men glance nervously, darting their eyes around, distracted by the room, their phones, or the fear of holding contact for too long. Others overdo it, staring too hard, too creepily, making her uncomfortable. Both extremes fail. But the older man knows the art of the gaze. He doesn't fidget, he doesn't rush, he doesn't look away nervously. Instead, he looks directly, calmly, steadily, long enough for her to feel it, short enough for her to crave more. His eyes don't just see her face. They see through her, as if he already knows who she really is beneath the surface. Psychologists call this the extended gaze effect. Sustained, confident eye contact raises oxytocin, the bonding chemical. It makes her feel connected, desired, even exposed. It's the kind of look that bypasses logic and goes straight to emotion. Picture this. She's talking, telling a story, laughing at her own words. Most men are waiting for their turn to jump in, eager to impress. But he just watches, his eyes fixed on hers. Not desperate, not weak, calm, present. A slow, subtle smile plays on his lips, but he doesn't interrupt. He doesn't break the moment. And then something happens. She stumbles over a word. She laughs nervously. She glances away for just a second, but almost immediately, she looks back at him. Why? Because his eyes have already pulled her in. That steady gaze has created a tension she can't shake. It's as if, in that moment, he has undressed her without laying a hand on her. The older man's gaze is not about aggression, it's about presence. It says, without words, I see you, all of you. And that simple silent message disarms her in a way no clever line ever could. Younger men scatter their focus. They look at their phones, the TV, the people around them. Their attention is divided, and divided attention makes a woman feel invisible. But the older man, he gives her full focus, and that focus feels rare. It feels special. It feels unforgettable. Here's the truth. She won't remember every detail of the conversation, But she will never forget how his eyes made her feel. The way they held her, stripped away her defenses, and left her both nervous and excited. That look will haunt her long after she's gone home. It will replay in her mind like a song she can't get out of her head. Because sometimes the most powerful form of desire doesn't come from words or even touch. It comes from the eyes of a man who has mastered presence. Eyes that don't just look at her, but see straight into her. 4. The whisper. She'll never forget. There's a reason whispers feel different. They bypass logic and go straight to sensation. A whisper isn't just sound, it's intimacy. It's a private world that exists between two people, no one else allowed inside. Younger men almost always get this wrong. They try to out-talk the noise of the room. They speak too loudly, too eagerly, almost like they're performing for a crowd. But the older man knows something most men never learn. True connection doesn't come from volume. It comes from closeness. He doesn't raise his voice, he lowers it. He leans in just enough so that his breath brushes against her ear. And in that split second, she feels it before she even hears the words. Her body reacts. Goosebumps, shivers, a sudden rush of heat. Her heart races, not because of what he said, but because of the way he said it. Psychologists call this proximal communication. The closer the voice, the stronger the emotional impact. A whisper collapses the distance between two people. It creates an invisible wall around them, shutting out the entire world. It tells her, this moment is ours, and no one else can touch it. Picture this. The music is loud, the crowd buzzing. She leans in to speak, expecting him to raise his voice to answer. But instead, he leans closer, so close his lips nearly graze her ear. His words are playful, soft, teasing. They don't even need to carry much meaning. It could be a witty comment, a mischievous observation, or a compliment disguised as a joke. Whatever he says, it doesn't matter, because the way he delivers it is what sets her body on fire. And here's the secret. She won't remember the exact sentence. She won't replay the words in her mind, but she will replay the feeling, the warmth of his breath, the sudden tingle on her skin, the way her body betrayed her by reacting before she could even think. That's the real power of the whisper. Younger men talk for everyone. The older man whispers for her. And that difference creates an addictive kind of intimacy. It tells her she's chosen, that she has access to something exclusive, that she's inside a private circle no one else gets to enter. Think about it. A whisper forces her to come closer. It forces her to tune out the noise and focus only on him. The moment becomes theirs alone, and in her memory, that closeness will play back again and again, growing stronger each time. Because a whisper isn't just about sharing words, it's about sharing space. It's about breaking down the invisible barrier between strangers and turning it into connection. And once she's felt that, the closeness, the heat, the electricity, she will never forget it. That's why the whisper is so powerful. It's not about volume, it's about vulnerability. It's not about information, it's about sensation. It's not about saying much at all. It's about saying just enough to make her crave more. 5. Owning the room without trying. Confidence is often misunderstood. Younger men think it's about showing off, the loudest laugh, the flashiest clothes, the biggest gestures. But real confidence, the kind that women can't ignore, doesn't shout, it whispers, it doesn't try, it simply is. And this is where the older man sets himself apart. He knows he doesn't have to fight for attention because true presence attracts it without effort. When he walks into a room, he doesn't storm in. He doesn't need to dominate with noise. Instead, his body language speaks for him. Shoulders relaxed, back straight, chin lifted, every step deliberate. He moves like a man who belongs everywhere he goes, but never feels the need to prove it. Psychologists call this spatial dominance. Humans instinctively judge status and authority based on how someone uses space. A man who fidgets, shrinks, or shifts nervously communicates weakness. A man who spreads out naturally, who stands tall and still, communicates power. And power, especially when it's quiet, is magnetic. Picture this, a crowded room. Younger men are competing, laughing too loudly, telling exaggerated stories, waving their hands for attention. They're chasing approval. But then he arrives, the older man. He doesn't rush. He doesn't force his presence. He simply enters, calm and unshaken. And slowly, without anyone realizing why, the energy of the room shifts. People notice him, not because he's demanding their eyes, but because he carries himself as if the room already belongs to him. And women feel this more strongly than anyone else. His stillness makes him stand out. His calmness makes him intriguing. While others fight to be seen, he becomes the man everyone wants to see. Younger men often orbit around others, clinging to groups, desperate to be part of the center. But the older man, he is the center. Others orbit him. He doesn't shrink to fit in, and he doesn't puff up to impress. He stays exactly as he is, grounded, steady, composed. That kind of self-control is irresistible. Imagine her watching him from across the room. He isn't the loudest, he isn't the flashiest, yet he's the one she can't take her eyes off. Why? Because his presence communicates something deeper. I don't need your approval. I am the approval. And here's the secret. Women don't just see it, they feel it. A man who owns the room without trying doesn't just look confident. He radiates an energy that pulls people closer. He doesn't chase connection, he makes others want to connect with him. That is why women are drawn to the older man's presence. Not because he begs for attention, not because he forces his way into the spotlight, but because his energy, his stillness, his control, his calm authority makes him impossible to ignore. Real confidence isn't loud. Real confidence doesn't perform. Real confidence simply arrives and lets the world adjust to it. So here's the truth. Women don't desire older men simply because of age, grey hair, or life experience. What draws them in is something far deeper, something younger men rarely understand. A kind of presence, control, and quiet confidence that changes the entire dynamic. Think about what we've uncovered. The calm touch, so light, so controlled that it feels accidental, yet leaves her body electrified. The deep, steady voice, slow enough to make her lean in, strong enough to make her feel safe, addictive enough to stay in her memory long after the words are gone. The eyes, not wandering, not desperate, but steady, focused, powerful enough to strip away her defenses and make her feel seen like never before. The whisper, intimate, exclusive, a private world between two people that no one else can enter. The presence, walking into any room with quiet confidence, needing no approval because approval already radiates from within. These aren't tricks, these aren't games. They are signals of maturity, self-control, and inner power. They separate the man who chases from the man who makes others crave his attention. And here's the best part. You don't need to wait until you're older to develop these traits. You don't need perfect looks. You don't need endless money. You don't need flashy status. What you need is awareness. What you need is discipline. What you need is the willingness to stop performing for approval and start carrying yourself like the man who already owns it. Because the moment you master these behaviors, everything changes. You stop begging for attention. You stop competing for validation. You stop running after women who barely notice you. Instead, you become the man who doesn't need to chase. The man who makes her curious. The man who draws her in without even trying. the man she replays in her mind over and over because she felt something different with you. That's why women can't stop desiring older men who master these secrets. Not because they try harder, but because they try less. Because they know anticipation is more powerful than completion. Because they understand silence is louder than noise. Because they live with a confidence that doesn't need to be shouted. And here's the challenge for you. Are you going to keep being the man who talks too much, moves too fast, and gives away all his power? Or are you ready to become the man who slows it down, controls the moment, and makes her chase you? If your answer is yes, if you're ready to shift from the boy chasing approval to the man women can't ignore, then do this right now. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss another lesson on psychology, attraction, and self-mastery. Drop the word power in the comments so I know you're serious about becoming the man women desire instead of the man always chasing. Because once you master these secrets, your world will never look the same again. Women won't just see you differently, you will see yourself differently. And that shift, that identity, is where true power begins.